If you're building a business in India right now, whether it be a D2C brand or a small startup or even a side hustle, you might be making a lot of your financial decisions based on gut feel. Hello everyone, my name is Swarnali Datta and I am an MBA grad at Alliance University. And today I'm going to show you how to create an Excel based financial forecasting model from scratch. The best part about this model is that it will have three scenarios: pessimistic, normal, and optimistic, all inbuilt in the same dynamic model. So, whether you're trying to pitch to your investors or planning your cash flow or just trying to understand if your business will survive the first year, this model is for you. Before moving on to Excel, let us first understand what is financial forecasting all about. Financial forecasting is the process of estimating your future revenues, costs, and profits based on a set of assumptions. Now, it is not exactly about predicting the future, no one can do that, but it is about building a structured way to think about your business. Now, coming on to the scenarios. Why three scenarios? Because we know that the future is uncertain, especially in India, where CAC, logistics costs, and consumer demand can swing dramatically. A single forecast gives you a false confidence. Three scenarios gives you a range of outcomes and help you plan accordingly for your business. Now we'll move on to Excel. Hello everyone. So we're going to start off with the income statement where we have to forecast for all these 5 years, 23 to 27. We have line items as revenue, cost of goods sold, gross profit, operating expenses, operating profit, and finally profit and loss. If we scroll down, we have the assumptions table. I have named it as life case so that I can later make this table dynamic and link it with the scenario toggle, which will contain all the three scenarios. So let us first try to fill in the revenue line item. So for this, we would need to scroll down and we would need these values. We would need number of orders, order growth rate, and average order value. Now for this, let us first assume the growth rates for the normal scenario. We already have the assumption that the number of orders for this scenario would be 2000 and the average order value is 750. Let us take some growth rates for the normal case. Let us take 60%, 45, 30, and finally 20%. These are my growth rates assumptions. Now let us calculate the number of orders. So here in this cell, I would require a formula to do this. So what is the formula? Equals the number of orders multiplied by plus 1 plus the order growth rate. And we'll click enter. And we'll just drag this on and scale it for the other years. So now this is linked with this is linked with this automatically. And then for average order value, I'm just going to drag it on and scale it for all the years. Okay, so this is all I require to formulate my revenue line item. So what I'll do is I'll click here and then we know that total revenue is number of orders multiplied by the average order value. So what I'll do is I will equals D30 multiplied by the average order value. And I'll click enter. And I'll just drag it on for all the years. Now we would require cost of goods sold and operating expenses. So basically, cost of goods sold here is variable expense. So again, I will scroll down to my assumptions table and I will fill this cells. So I have assumed that manufacturing cost per order is 95 rupees and order fulfillment per order is 48 per order, 48 rupees per order. I'll just keep this same for all the years. Let us also calculate the operating expenses. We have warehouse rent is 3 lakh 50, salaries is 15 lakhs, marketing is 50,000, and others I've kept it as 5,000. We will also keep all of this same for all the years. So when we're doing the different scenarios, I will change the numbers accordingly. So for pessimistic, the numbers would be different for normal case, which is this case. The numbers are different, and for optimistic, the numbers will be different. Finally, for corporate tax, I'm keeping it as 25 for all the years. Now we can see the assumptions table is completely filled. Now we'll go on to the income statement. Now, for manufacturing, I will use this formula, which is equals number of orders multiplied by the manufacturing cost per order, which is 95. Then I'll click enter. And similarly for order fulfillment, I will again select the number of orders multiplied by order fulfillment cost, which is 96,000. And finally, for total COGS, I will add these two cells. So here, then I will scale this, use autofill and scale it up to year 5. So, right. Now we will move on to gross profit. Now we know that gross profit is basically revenue minus total COGS, which is 12 lakhs. And for gross profit margin, we know that it is gross profit divided by the revenue that we have, and it is showing 81%. So we will again drag these values up to year 5. Right. So we can see that the gross profit is increasing very rapidly, exponentially. So next we move on to operating expenses. So this is basically fixed expenses. So it will be same as it is in the assumptions table. So what I will do, I will just link it from the assumptions table. So equals warehouse rent. Then we have salaries, which is 15 lakhs. Similarly, marketing, 50,000. And finally, others, which is 5,000. And for total operating expenses, I will just use the sum formula and click on enter. Now, similarly, I will scale this up to year 5. Finally, we have the operating profit, which is basically the gross profit minus the total operating expenses that we have. You can see that we are making a loss in the first year, which is okay. We will scale it up in the next years. For operating profit margin, we are doing operating profit divided by the revenue that we have, which is minus 46%. And we will scale it up to year 5. As you can see that the numbers are increasing, the operating profit is increasing. Finally, for tax, we have to create a formula because we cannot use tax or we cannot levy tax on a loss. So we have to create a formula for that. So what is the formula? It is if this value, which is operating profit, less than zero, then we will make Excel type NA in the cell. And if the value is false, it is just going to multiply it with the tax. So operating profit multiplied with 25%, bracket close and enter. So here we can see it is showing NA because in the first year we're making a loss, and then I'm just going to drag it up to year 5. Finally, for profit and loss, we're going to use this formula, which is the operating profit minus the tax we have. So here we have a value error because we're trying to uh, this is a number and this is a numerical format, and we're trying to uh, subtract a non-numerical value from it, so it won't work. So what we'll do, we'll use the if error function here. So if error, this operating profit minus tax and comma. So if the value is giving you an error, we will just show the loss value here. And then, yeah, so here we can see that just because there is a loss, it's just showing the loss number, loss operating profit, and then I'm going to drag it on to year 5. Finally, we have the final profit and loss document, and this is done for income statement. Again, this is just the normal case. Now we come to making the scenarios. So we're going to create 3 scenarios. First scenario is already created, that this is the normal case. So we're going to create a pessimistic scenario and an optimistic scenario. So let us do that. I'm going to zoom out a bit to now. What I'll do is I'll have to copy this assumption table. I'll copy it and I'll paste it here. Again, I have to paste it 3 times because I'm creating 3 scenarios. So I'll paste it here once, again here, and this is the 3rd time. Yeah. So let us change the names of these cases now. This is my live case. So the next one will be normal. Normal case will be referred to as 1 in the scenario toggle, and the next will be the pessimistic case. And finally, we have the optimistic case. This is 3. So now, yeah. Now, let us change the values for a bit because the normal case is as same as the live case. I'm not going to change this much. But for pessimistic case, I'm going to change some of the values. So I'm going to refer to my notes for that. Let us change the number of orders to 1200. As you can see that these are linked with this, so these are also changing. I am going to change the average order value to 600. And I'm going to delete the growth rates here. I'm going to add new growth rates. So let us, for pessimistic case, let us add growth rates starting from 30%. Let us take 20% in the next year, 15%, and finally 10%. Right. So for cost of goods sold, let us change the values. Let us take manufacturing cost per order as 110, and for order fulfillment we can take as 55 rupees. I'll just scale these to year 5. And for operating expenses, let us delete these values. For year warehouse rent, let us take 4 lakhs. For salaries, it has increased to 18 lakhs from 15, comparing with the normal scenario. For marketing expenses, we can have 80,000, and for others, going to keep it as 5,000. No changes in that. Right. And then I'm going to drag it. For corporate tax rate, I'm going to increase it to 26%. Okay, so our pessimistic table is ready. Let us go on with the optimistic case, and then we will create the scenario toggle. Here, as it is optimistic, let us change the number of orders as 3,000. We're getting more number of orders. And let us change the growth rates. Here we are overly optimistic, so let us start with 100% in the first year, in the second year. So from the second year to fifth year, so we're starting off with 100%, then 75%, then 50%, and finally closing off with 35%. We're also going to change the average order value, which let us keep it as 900 rupees. Okay, so now let us change the cost of goods sold values. For manufacturing, I have taken 80 rupees per order, and for order fulfillment, I have taken 38 rupees per order. So let us scale these. For warehouse rent, I have taken 3 lakhs. So it is significantly lower than the previous rents that we had. Salary, we will keep it as 12 lakhs. For marketing expenses, we will keep it minimum as to 25,000, and similarly, others will not change. And then we will just drag it on. For this, corporate tax rate will be same as the normal tax rate. We are not changing that. So now all of the 3 scenarios are ready. Now we have to create the link between this table and a scenario toggle. So let us create the scenario toggle now. I will name it as scenario, and I will create the toggle here. So what I'll do is I'll go to data and then data validation. And then here I will, for the validation criteria, I will select a list. And then source would be basically 1, 2, 3. So one being the normal case, 2 being this pessimistic, and similarly 3 is the optimistic case. Then we'll click OK. So here we can see that you can switch between the 3 scenarios simultaneously or dynamically. So I will just color it, and right? So now we are going to use a formula. Let us go to the assumptions life case table, our original assumptions table. And here we will click on the number of orders cell and put a formula. So what is the formula? Which is equals to choose bracket open. It is asking for the index number. So our index number is this scenario toggle. And I'm going to use absolute cell referencing for that. So I will use function F4 key in the keyboard and then comma. Then I'll choose the three values. So for the normal case, the number of orders. This is the first case, comma. Then number of orders for the pessimistic case, and finally number of orders for the optimistic case, which is 3000. And then I'm going to press enter. Let us see how that works. So here, if we select 1, you can see that the values are changing. So here we can see we started with, in the first scenario, we started with 15 lakhs as the revenue. And then here you can see for the first year, we have no profit. So it is going in loss. And then gradually it is changing. And the final profit that we're gaining in the fifth year, which is 2027, is 18 lakhs. So we can see that based on the scenarios, the main income statement table values are changing. If we take the second scenario, which is the pessimistic case, we can see that the values have changed and we can see we're making losses for the first 3 years and then gradually it is changing. So this is the pessimistic case where the most profit we're making by year 5 is 5 lakhs. And if you take the overly optimistic case, we're making 35 lakhs in year 5, starting off revenue from 22 lakhs. So we have made this table dynamic, and if we scroll further down, we can see that these values would be changing as well. So this is the first scenario. This is the live case. So you can see that these are the values which is similar to the normal case that we chose, which is 2000 starting number of orders. And then we have cost of goods sold, warehouse rent, corporate tax being 25%. Now, if we change it to 2, which is pessimistic case, our number of orders are changing to 1200. So now we have made this table as dynamic. Similarly, if I take scenario 3, the number of orders has changed to 3000. So finally, we are almost at the end of our tutorial. One thing I would like to do is we have to make this table fill in the formulas for all these values. So what I'll do is I will select our live case. I will select number of orders cell, which is D30. I will click Control C. I'll copy it and then I'll select the entire table with the values. And then I will go to paste special and then click on formulas. So then this formula will be integrated in all of these cells so that it becomes dynamic. And then I'll click on OK. So now it is linked with the toggle scenario that we have. And then I will delete these values, which is not existing. This is also not there. And finally, we are at the end of our presentation. For interpretation, we can see that in the normal case, we are going in loss for the first year, but we are gradually coping up with the revenue. And we can see that the revenue has increased 24, 34, and 45 lakhs, and total operating expenses and gross profit And then we can see that the revenue is good enough to manage the expenses that we have incurred. And in the pessimistic case, very clearly it is seen that we are incurring severe losses in the first 3 years. First, actually, all the years. So, this is not an ideal scenario. So, definitely, we would need an external funding for this type of scenario in the company. And then for the third year, which is overly optimistic, we are seeing profit from the first year itself, and then it is exponentially growing to one we can see. So here this is the end of the income statement forecasting forecasting model using Excel, and we have created a dynamic scenario with data validation. Okay, thank you. So, to summarize what we built today, a 5 year financial forecast for an Indian D2C business with three scenarios inbuilt into the same dynamic model. Now, every assumption is calibrated for Indian market realities, order values, fulfillment costs, salary structures, and CAC benchmarks that actually reflect what founders here are dealing with. See you in the next one.